This is the Dallas Morning News.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of SportsDay Rangers. I'm John Blake.
And I'm Evan Grant. This is our weekly spinoff of the Dallas Morning News SportsDay Insider Podcast. And on each episode, John and I talk about the last week in Rangers baseball, what might be ahead. We chat with a former Ranger, and we visit a memorable or semi-memorable moment in club history.
Rangers were obviously where they were swept at home by the Royals to end last week. They go on the road. They win 2 out of 3 in Pittsburgh. This week they're in Baltimore, where Evan is, for a 3-game series against the Orioles. But we're also going to look ahead to Rangers Hall of Fame weekend and the induction of Elvis Andrus. And finally, in the archives in Arlington, we're going to look ahead. We're going to look back, I should say, at a memorable part of the 2010 season.
Yes, John, I don't know if you're aware that archives tend to look back, not forward. But if you love Rangers history, make sure you take a listen to our previous episodes, including last week's conversation with Mr. Ranger, Tom Grieve.
If you want to interact with the show, you can find each of us on X. I'm at Ranger Blake, and Evan's at Evan_P_Grant. Feel free to send us any questions. I think we do all owe you a mailbag episode pretty soon, and that would be kind of interesting. I'd like to hear what you all think about the show.
Definitely. You can also email me at egrant@dallasnews.com with any questions that you've got. You can also reach out to the Dallas Morning News on any of the paper's social media channels. And again, find the podcast in the SportsDay Insider feed whenever you like to consume podcasts. And now let's get to the Rangers. But even before the Rangers, John, you just spent a week and a half in Greece. And so I have one thing to say. Oppa!
Bottom of the ninth, bases loaded. Here comes Jimmy Dale from Baker Brothers Plumbing, AC, and Electrical.
Thanks, Chuck. When your home pitches curveballs, Baker Brothers knocks it out of the park.
Home run, Baker Brothers. Incredible.
As the official home service partner of your Texas Rangers, we're offering $300 off a tank or tankless water heater.
Another winning call. Visit callbakernow.com or dial 214-342-1171 today.
Baker Brothers.
Great service.
Yeah, but it's amazing in Greece. Unlike here with Saganaki, they don't do flaming cheese. They just kind of put it on the table. So we were kind of disappointed in that, but we had a great time. And it's nice now that I'm in this kind of the twilight of my career that I can take trips during the baseball season and follow the Rangers from afar. But it's 8 hours later over in Athens, so that wasn't that easy.
And John sent me a picture of he and his lovely wife Harriet at the Olympic Stadium. And as many of you know, John did the game notes for the original Olympics in Athens. The first actual recorded episode included John saying, "Questions for Hercules?"
The problem with that stadium is there's no press box, and it gets a little warm in the summer. But
I don't want to hear about warmth, John. It's 101 degrees in Baltimore right now.
That's right. Well, let's get to it now that we've talked about our travels. And as I said, Evan is remote this week, and I'm in my home studio. Let's get to the Rangers a little bit, Evan, and kind of the same old with offense. My thing is the lack of the home run. They've only homered in one of the last 8 games. Why is there such a lack of power on this team when it was expected that this club could hit the long ball?
Well, I think this is going to dive into conspiracy theories and something I'm going to look into this week in particular. Andrew McCutchen yesterday made a comment, or earlier in the week made a comment about a rumor that's circulating in baseball that the seams are raised this year. You know, John, as long as you've done this, right, every year it seems like for the last 20 years we have is the ball juiced or is the ball dead? Well, this year I think it's in odd years that we have the ball is dead theory. And so there is a theory running around that the ball is a little bit dead because the seams are supposedly raised a little bit, and that creates more drag. In addition to all that, if you look at the Rangers' numbers at home versus on the road, there is a dramatic difference. And there is some theory going around that maybe the Globe Life Field has some negative impact on offense. Maybe it's not just the pitching. Maybe it does have the park factors are all very negative. So my point here is that offense is down all around baseball. The Rangers have certainly underachieved offensively, but I think there's also the question of whether or not there is some external factor that is also hampering offense somewhat in the game.
Now, you've made a big deal, and I get it. The club scores less than 4 runs. They don't win games. They can't win those close games very well. They don't come back. And you've mentioned that, and it's getting to be kind of a real thing here as we near the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, listen, they are 27-4 when they score 4 or more runs. And I went back yesterday and I looked. The 4 losses they had, 3 of those times they added the 4th run, like in the 8th inning or later. So here's the bottom line. If this team gets to 4 runs before you can go to the back end of the bullpen, they're as automatic as you can be in this game. I think they're basically in the 20s, because there have been some times when they've gotten to 4 runs and wins late in games. But they're in the 20s again in 1 loss. And so I do think it makes it, with all the factors considered, I do think it makes it more urgent for the Rangers to take the approach that we've got to figure out how to get to 4. If that means manufacturing and doing some situational hitting as opposed to going up there and trying to get off their best swing in every situation, then that I think is what they're going to have to do, because the bullpen's been pretty good. The starting rotation has been really good. If you can put those things together as assets, it should be a very good team. And so you also add in the factor that Bruce Bochy is a master when it comes to working the late innings of a bullpen. So he's got the tools. This offense just needs to help out a little bit, and maybe the Rangers need to put more emphasis internally on we've got to figure out a way to get to 4 runs here, boys.
Well, let's do a little look back here at the rotation. It looks like Nathan Eovaldi will be back probably for the first game of the Seattle series on Friday, which looms as a very big series for the Rangers right now to try to pass the Mariners or get a little closer behind the Astros. And then there's been talk that Jacob Latz could get a start this week in Baltimore. He pitched very well in long relief. But with Leiter and Rocker pitching pretty well, the rotation, even with the loss of Tyler Mahle, the rotation keeps humming along.
Yeah, and look, right now, Kumar Rocker, much to his credit, has made some adjustments during what ended up being a very brief minor league stay. And it's just another example of how crazy baseball is, because when the Rangers sent Rocker down, it was clear at that point in time that he had some things to work on. And they only brought him back because of an extreme dire situation in the rotation. And how's he responded? He's responded really well. The first start, he really mixed speeds well to make sure that he could keep guys off balance. And I think that played into his confidence going into the start in Pittsburgh. Jack Leiter has run into a little bit of trouble here. I think he's fallen into some situations where he's attacked too much with the fastball, and when he does that and he makes mistakes over the zone, he's still hittable. But the bottom line is that they're both rookies, and the rookies are going to go through some growing pains. Jack was really good for the first 2 months of the season. He's had some growing pains now. Kumar is on a little bit of a hot streak. When you've got 2 rookies in the rotation, hopefully they balance each other out. When one's hot, the other one is maybe struggling a little bit. If the other one is struggling, maybe the other guy is hot. But I do think it all leads back to one point, John. You know, the Rangers called up Justin Foscue on Saturday to replace Jake Berger after he hurt his oblique. And if you look at this team now, it's got its last 6 first-round draft picks all in the big leagues together. From Cole Winn, Young, Foscue, Leiter, Rocker, and Langford. Obviously, the 2024 pick, Mal Moore, is not yet in the big leagues, but the 2018 through 23 draft picks are all in the big leagues. And in a lot of ways, a lot of them are contributing. Langford, Young, Rocker, Leiter, Cole Winn has had a great season as a reliever. Justin Foscue hasn't had an at-bat yet since he's come up. But I do also think that as we get closer to the draft, maybe the narrative on the Rangers is starting to change. That, remember, there was that time when they couldn't draft or develop any players. Well,
Correct.
They're drafting and developing players, and we still haven't mentioned their second-round pick from 2020, Evan Carter, who's as key to this team's success as anybody. So hats off to Kip Fagg and what the scouting department has done and what the development department has done.
So let's just look at the schedule a little bit as we kind of conclude our look at the current Rangers. 6 of the next 9 games as we're taping this are against the Baltimore. And the Orioles have played a little better lately. Played the Yankees tough. They played the Rays. They went in and beat the Tigers 2 out of 3. But again, you've got to kind of make hay here against these teams. They went into Pittsburgh and won 2 out of 3 because after they play the Orioles next week, they've got a tough road trip leading up to the All-Star break in San Diego, Anaheim, and then on to Houston. And that kind of leads into this is kind of a crucial point for the ball club as they look ahead to how they're going to handle that trade deadline.
Well, absolutely. And look, this stretch started a while ago. It started really with the homestand and facing the White Sox. And the Rangers did well against the White Sox, and then they gave it all away against Kansas City. But the 6 games against Baltimore in a short stretch, the games against Pittsburgh, it is an opportunity to get this team above 500. And I think to legitimately feel like they are contenders, they've got to be a winning ball club. You throw in the middle of all this that they have this key series against Seattle, as you mentioned, this weekend in Arlington. It's an opportunity to pass the Mariners in the American League West and maybe supplant them as a wild card team. And then they have that really tough 10-game road trip leading into the break that includes their first matchup against Houston. And for all the guys that the Astros have lost over the last couple of years, they're doing what great teams do. They've responded really, really well. And so I think that when you get to the All-Star break, by that point in time, the Rangers are going to know whether or not they are going to be in buy mode or whether they're going to be in a situation where they're either holding pat or selling. It's really important in these games against the American League West upcoming for the Rangers to make some kind of statement. But this is not going to go down till the last week to make a determination like it did last year. I think when you and I were in Cooperstown for Adrian Beltré's induction, the Rangers were still hemming and hawing about which way they were going to go, and they had a hot series then and decided, we'll add a little bit.
Right.
And so I don't think they're going to make it. They're going to wait that long this year. It's going to be, what is this team doing as they go into the break? Because coming out of the break, it's not easy either. I think Detroit, they start with 3 games against Detroit at home. So the Rangers need to make hay here against some of these teams that they've played. And look, against the White Sox and the Pirates, they did a good job. They need to go 5-1 against Baltimore. Can they pull that off? Win 2 out of 3 here and sweep them in Arlington? You do that, you've really made up some ground quickly.
Well, as we talked about, the Mariners series on the field, very important this coming weekend, but it will also be Texas Rangers Hall of Fame weekend. A lot of former players coming back on Friday night against the Mariners. The Rangers are going to honor Charlie Huff and Buddy Bell with their Hall of Fame jackets. And then on Saturday before the game, it's a 3:05 game. About 2:30, Rangers will be inducting Elvis Andrus as the 27th member of the very official, or whatever you want to call it, Texas Rangers Baseball Hall of Fame. And we'll talk to Elvis next on this episode of SportsDay Rangers. We have a very special guest this week on the podcast. This is going to be a great weekend coming up at Globe Life Field as we induct Elvis Andrus as the 27th member of the Texas Rangers Hall of Fame. He played for the Rangers for 12 years, from 2009 to 2020, started more games at one position than any other player in franchise history, over 1,600 games at shortstop. Michael Young played more games, but we all know Michael played all over the field. The all-time franchise leader in steals, second in games, at-bats and triples, third in runs and hits. And then his postseason, he's played in 5 postseasons for the Rangers, the most postseason games ever for the Rangers, 42 games. And we'll look back at that 2010-2011 team, and there are now 5 Hall of Famers in the Hall of Fame from that team. So, Elvis, welcome. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Good seeing you guys. Thank you, Evan.
But, John, you also forgot to mention Elvis's all-time club record for goofy stuff. He set the all-time record for goofy stuff. I think that was in about 2012, and he just kept adding on to it after that.
It was a great time. You saw a lot of stuff. But just to start off, what are your thoughts about going into the Hall of Fame? I mean, you've known now for about 4 months. I remember I called you one day, and it meant a lot to you, right?
Yes, it does. I think it's something that I never thought of myself being in this, amazing hall. But yeah, I mean, it's been a blessing years since you break the news of getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. So, just so blessed. And I mean, I still can't believe it. I'm kind of like Adrian, when it happened, and then I'll believe I'm part of that. But yes, man, it still doesn't, I still don't get it yet. I think that I'm trying to do everything normal this week, so I don't think too much about it. But it's been it was an amazing news and very honored.
Elvis, I think it's great that you're back with the club in the TV role. It just feels right. I know that when the trade happened and you were sent to what was Oakland at that point in time, it was disappointing, and I really wish that you had finished your career with an entire Texas Rangers baseball card. But congratulations, you are as part of this club's history as any player. I want to go back to one thing. Last year, when you officially announced your retirement, you wanted to do it when the Angels were in town. You wanted Ron Washington to be there, and he was there. And Wash meant a lot to you. Wash is obviously, the news this weekend is that he's dealing with some health issues. He's not going to be with the Angels, and so the Rangers won't see him when they're in Anaheim in 2 weeks. What did Wash mean to your career from the moment you got to the big leagues in 2009 and into 2010? What did he mean to your career?
He meant a lot. I think that's something that, throughout my career, and especially, last year when I retired, one of the things that I told John is I would love Wash to be there because I knew he was managing the Angels. I mean, it means a lot. And for me, it was a time for me to talk to him, personally and pretty much tell him, what I've been saying my whole career, that he was one of the main pieces for me to have the career that I had. I think that going back to, 2009, I was 20, and, you're a kid. There's so many things, and having someone like Watch as your manager, guiding me, helping me, always having my back, I think that's one of the reasons for me to feel so good right away getting into the league. So, I mean, I would never have enough words to speak the gratitude that I have for Wash. But no, it means a lot, man. Just any certain way, not only baseball. I mean, he coached me outside the game also. So, I'm very, I have a lot of gratitude for Ron.
So let's look at that 2010 season a little bit. And we've talked about it a lot. It's 15 years. It's hard to believe it's been 15 years since that season, and you were just a young player. When did you guys think you had a chance to be really good? Now, 2009, the young players had started to gel. But when did you think in 2010, hey, we have a chance to really win this division?
Yeah, I think, being honest, I mean, I always try to never be cocky about it. But I remember in 2009, we went to the season. I mean, for me, I was trying to survive, right? I'm trying to stay in the league. But I remember towards the end, we gave the Angels, something to think about it towards the end. And I mean, of course, we all know that in September they took off and they won by like 7, 8 games. But I remember like the end of the season, I felt like, I think we're not too far away. I thought, and probably the organization and JD thought that it was gonna take longer for us to be there. But I remember we were competing, toe to toe all the way until September with the Angels. So if you ask me, going back to your question, I believe it was in spring training. When we all came to spring training, we were like, we felt that we lost the year before. We didn't have enough experience, and being honest, we didn't believe we could beat them. But I remember in spring training 2010, the vibe was completely different. We were like, we competed with them last year when we thought we have no shot, and we got all the way to September. So I'm like, mentally, I think the whole team in spring training, we were like, let's go. Like, I think we have a good shot to win the division.
Well, that team did come to spring training in 2010 really upbeat, right? And 2 weeks in, we get that kind of shocking word. Wash had called you all together and admitted the cocaine use in the clubhouse. And I think that had the ability to be a really negative story for this team. But I think when you look back, Michael stepped up, right? I'd like you to hear your story of what you saw and heard in the clubhouse that day and how you think it shaped what this club ultimately became.
Yeah, well, I think that, you have to give props to, who deserve the props. I think I always give props to like all of our veteran guys, starting with Michael, of course. During that time, of course, it was tough because, he's your leader. But I think Michael handled it, with the rest of the crew, all the veteran guys, very well. Because for me, I was more like, like I knew Wash, but I didn't know him as much. I still want to be in the big league. So, in my position was more like, okay, you guys tell me where to go, what to believe, what to think. Uh, so I think, I always give props to like Michael and Ian and all the Fox. They kind of guide the team. We're like, okay, guys, this is not a good news, but, we're humans at the end, and we know his heart. We know he cares. We know he loves us, and we're going to go through this as a family. And I think it kind of like help us take, go to the next level, of course.
What did Michael say in that moment in the clubhouse? You remember?
I don't really, remember a specific every word, but I do remember going through the years. Just he find through those moments ways to unite us as a team, to be like, everybody outside is gonna try to make holes, and this is the time for us to actually be tight and to protect our own. So that's what I remember from the message. It's been a few years. I don't remember what I did last week, but I do remember a sense of unity in that time, and it teach me so much about how to deal, with uncertainty and with like suffering or bad news.
That team to me was so resilient, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to the postseason in 2010.
You took in that playoff series. I think you against the Rays, you stole 3 bases in 5 games, and your base running was really an energizing moment for the series. What did you feel like your role was at that point in time?
So like for me, it was just, I remember talking to Wash, and he goes like, come on, Elvis, I need you to go and be more aggressive. So that's what I did. I literally, with all the trust that I have from Wash and our hitting coaches and everything, I was just trying to be more aggressive, and especially at base. You know that in the postseason, it's going to be hard to like just go and score runs. So, just take advantage of that. Like, that in the postseason, everything got tighter. Catchers don't want to make a bad throw. Like, everything means a lot. So, good thing I was young and reckless. So literally, as soon as I was in base, I told Wash, if you don't stop me, I actually had a sign to like stop, like don't go, because I told him like if you don't give me that, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna trying to get to the next base.
You mentioned in 2010, you guys, were confident, but were just kind of there. By
Yeah.
2011, of Adrian obviously had a huge role, but you guys really did expect to win in 2011 and in 2012.
Yes, in 2011, like you mentioned, I remember I was in Venezuela actually playing in Venezuela in that off season of 2010. Scott called me. He goes like, "I think you guys going back to the World Series," and I'm like, "What is he talking about?" So I'm like, "Yeah, you guys just signed Adrian." And I'm like, "What?" Like I was so happy. I'm like, "Man, that was a piece, the missing piece for us to go and win it all." So having Adrian in spin training, I remember the confidence of the team was crazy, So yeah, 2011, it was supposed to happen because we have it all pretty much in our lineup.
What did Adrian mean to your career?
Man, means too much, too much. A lot of people say a lot. It means too much. I mean, I think that it was kind of like an angel God sends to my life, pretty much. Because I always tell people it's not so much what I learned from him as a player. He was like the complete package. He was the person that I really see myself, right? Probably not with the talent because he's like one of a kind talent, but in general, he's Hispanic. He came to the big league at 19. He has an amazing family, so he was for me the best role model that God could put in my life at that moment, where I have so many questions and I was going through so many places. So, I mean, until this day, I still call him all the time. We're joking around like if we were playing, and he's still giving me advice about life, of course.
Hey, one other thing that I wanted to hit on, and look, I mean, I for all the goofy stuff you did with Adrian, I think maybe the funniest thing you ever did was I think it was the 2010 World Series. I forget exactly when it was, but maybe it was before the World Series, the workout. But take us through the story of the clown mask and Michael Young.
Well, yeah, like for a lot of people that knows Michael, you should know that he don't like clowns. To not say ugly
Not one
words.
bit.
Not one bit. No clowns and no little guys. To not create nothing here. But especially in clowns, he don't like that. So I mean, through our year, I remember 2010 actually. They were like a huge prank. Darren Lowe and another guy, Scott Feldman, did when we were in Seattle. But Michael, like literally, he will swing at you if he always with his bat, always throughout his whole career. And if you wear a mask, knowing that it's you, Evan Grant, he will probably, swing at you. So knowing that, you know me, I'm trying to always be annoying and goofy. So I think somebody gave it to me in the clubhouse, and I was like, okay, I need to find the right place to do this. I didn't want to do it when he was, in the middle of the field, but as soon as I saw him, in the car, I was like, this is the perfect opportunity. I have it with me in the club in the dugout, so like as soon as I saw that, I put him on, and it was perfect because his face was priceless when he saw me in the mask.
Are you worried about retaliation here for your Hall of Fame ceremony when you did that to Mike in 2016?
I mean, at this point, I know I did that one. I got Adrian on his head when we give him the rope.
And those are the two guys speaking on Saturday, Elvis. I mean,
I'm well prepared. I mean, I know they both gentlemen, so I know they're not gonna say hopefully nothing out of line. But no, I'm ready. I'm ready. When you do pranks and stuff like this, you have to be a good sport and expecting somebody's gonna do something to you. So if it happened, I'm probably gonna laugh for sure.
we're looking forward to it. Evan, you got any final words for our new Hall of Famer?
Nothing other than congratulations. It's been a treat to cover you from the time I talked to you in Arizona when you were 17 years old after the trade and you told me that you wanted to be Derek Jeter, to you taking me into your house last September or August to talk about the end of your career. It's been an absolute treat. You've made me laugh. You were always open, even in the tough moments, even in the moments like the games in Toronto during 2015. And I think that you got a nice ovation when you announced your retirement, but I think that the pop is going to be just outstanding for everybody to recognize you as a Rangers Hall of Famer, Elvis.
Both of you guys means a lot. They were pretty much from the beginning to the end in the picture of for my career, whether it was a good advice, whether it was something that I saw from you guys, the way you guys handle your job, your expertise. Thank you very much. You guys are part of my growth as a baseball player and as a human being. So thank you very much for everything you guys did for me.
Well, we appreciate it, and looking forward to the weekend and looking forward to what Mike and Adrian might do. So we'll see you this weekend. Thanks for joining us today, Elvis. We really appreciate it. Well, talking to Elvis, I've brought back a lot of memories for me about the 2010 season. This is the 15th anniversary. Believe it or not, it's hard to believe that the Rangers went to the World Series for the first time. So this week's The Archives in Arlington, we're going to look back on that 2010 season around the same time of year, June 12th to 24th of that season. Rangers reeled off 11 straight wins to increase their margin in the American League West from a half a game to a 4.5 game lead. And the streak started with 8 wins, winning the final 8 games of a road trip to Milwaukee, Florida, and Houston, and then going 3-0, ironically, against the Pirates, who the Rangers just played, outscoring the opponents 70-33. And Evan, Josh Hamilton in that streak, not surprisingly, this was Josh's best year, hit .545, 24 for 44 with a .977 slug. That year, a lot of good that went right, but it was the year of Josh Hamilton.
Oh, for sure. And listen, I think that 11-game stretch, they went from 6 games up to 15 games above 16 games above 500, and finished it off with a walk-off win over Pittsburgh in Arlington. What I remember about that stretch, oddly enough, is that the first 3 games I didn't attend in Milwaukee because there was kind of a sharing agreement between the Morning News and the Fort Worth paper at that point in time.
Correct.
I was in Florida and had taken a couple days ahead of that trip to kind of relax, and I started to think, this team is pretty good. And I remember sitting by a pool and actually saying, this team might really be good. And then what happened is when we got to Florida, they called up Alexi Ogando. I don't remember why exactly Ogando was finally called up, but they needed some help in the bullpen, and Ogando came up and immediately added dominance as a setup guy in the bullpen.
Well, they also finally resolved his legal situation, if you remember, and looking back to that year, and the difference that Alexi Ogando made, and I think he is an unsung hero from those 2010, 2011 teams. He was an all-star, in 2011. But it did, and of course, Neftali Feliz at that point was just dominating as a closer. But just to kind of look at this, you mentioned that win, that 6-5 win over Pittsburgh in the 11th win. First 5 batters in that batting order were Elvis Andrus, Michael Young, Ian Kinsler, Vladimir Guerrero, and Josh Hamilton, who combined to go 11 for 23 in that game. And that just kind of shows you top to bottom. And then you go down the order, you had Nelson Cruz and Mitch Moreland and guys like that. That was quite the offensive team.
Without a doubt. I mean, the 2010 and 2011 clubs offensively were just at a different level. I'm looking at this box score from this game, this walk-off win, which ended on a Vlad single. Yeah, I mean, some of the things that are amazing in this are that Josh batted 5th in that game, and Nelson Cruz hit 6th. I really do want to go back to the idea of, I think that once you got to a situation where you had Ogando ahead of Feliz in the bullpen, and you had Darren Oliver from the left-hand side, you had a really legitimate back end of games to put things away.
And you had required Darren O'Day, too, was a big part of that ball club as well.
Huge part of that. A huge part of that club. It gave the team a different look with the side armor. In a lot of ways, the right-handed version of what Hobie Milner has been to the 2025 Rangers. But that bullpen really gelled. It was a really good group, and it propelled this team. But, yeah, when you had Josh doing what he did as an MVP all season, I think, what did he hit, 359 that year?
Yes. Club record.
And won the batting title and the MVP. And what Vlad brought, and really, you know, it can't be said enough that at that point in time, the Angels were the dominant team in the American League West. And when the Rangers took Vladimir Guerrero from them, and when they also, in 2011, essentially got Mike Napoli from him in a three-way trade where he went to Toronto and then the Blue Jays spun him off, it really just changed the dynamics of the American League West. And quite frankly, you know, the Angels have never recovered from that. They tried to strike their own deal with the Josh Hamilton deal that didn't work out well for either them or for Josh. And so the American League West became a much different division. I think a lot of that changed really in the middle of June that year.
So it will be a fun weekend in Arlington this weekend. If you're planning on coming to the game on Saturday, please get there early. The Hall of Fame ceremony will start about 2:30. Michael Young and Adrian Beltré are going to give some remarks prior to Elvis's induction speech, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. We'll see how that comes down. And there'll be former Rangers that were on that 2010-2011 team, so it's going to be a great time to look back. But for right now, we got to thank you for joining us for Sports Day Rangers this week.
Yes, everybody, thanks for joining us. We will be back again next week. And don't forget to check out the other podcasts that I do, because I've basically become a full-time podcaster now with Kevin Sherrington and many of our Sports Day staffers. This week we're talking about the NBA draft and Cooper Flagg's potential arrival in Dallas. And that is in the same feed every week. So you can get both of these podcasts. You can get two podcasts for the price of none, because it doesn't cost anything to sign up or download either one of these podcasts.
And if you have any questions for us, please ask us on X. I mean, we really try. We would like to get to some in our mailbag.
Yes, and also I really like attention, so that would help. Listen, I want to thank Elvis.
Everybody knows that. So
thanks, John. I want to thank Elvis for joining us this week. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. He remains one of my favorite guys to cover because he was always fun. He was always accessible. And I'm glad to see where he's at in his time. And congratulations to him on being inducted into the Rangers Hall of Fame this week. John and I will talk to you all next week.